Hey, welcome! Today, we're jumping into something you're going to use all the time in Finnish, comparing stuff. Whether you're shopping or just trying to decide on something, knowing how to say one thing is better or bigger or even the best, well, it's absolutely essential. And trust me, by the end of this, you'll have all the tools you need to do it like a pro.
So let's set the scene. Imagine you're in a shop in Helsinki. You see a shirt you like, and you're thinking, hang on a second, isn't that the exact same shirt I saw yesterday? Or is it just similar? Well, in Finnish, there's a huge difference, and that's exactly where we're going to start.
Okay, so here's the secret sauce. Sama means it is the one, the only, the very same item. But samanlainen, that means it's a different item that just looks the same. So if it's the exact shirt you saw before, you'd use sama. If it's its identical twin hanging on the rack, you'd use samanlainen. It sounds small, but man, it's a super important difference.
All right, with that sorted, let's dive into the real meat and potatoes, comparing two totally different things. And for this, we need our first major grammar tool, the comparative.
So the comparative, or the comparative, is your go-to when you're choosing between two things. Is this one better, faster, cheaper? And the magic ingredient? It's this little ending, MP. Let's see how this thing actually works. The formula for this is actually beautifully simple. You just take what's called the weak stem of an adjective, just think of it as a slightly tweaked version of the word, and then you slap mumpi right on the end. It's so logical.
Just look at how beautifully this works. Halpa, cheap, becomes halvempi, cheaper. Suuri, big, becomes suurempi, bigger. And nopea, fast, becomes nopeampi, faster. You see the pattern, right? It's that MP ending doing all the heavy lifting.
And here's how you'd use it in a real sentence, one you might actually say. Let's say you're at the station trying to figure out how to get somewhere. Juna on nopeampi kuin bussi. The train is faster than the bus. Simple. Clear. Done.
And hey, here's a little pro tip to make you sound even more like a native speaker. You can actually say the same thing a slightly different way. Juna on bussia nopeampi. It means the exact same thing. It just sounds a little more fluid. Pretty cool, huh?
Okay, so comparing two things is great, but what happens when you've got a whole bunch of options? That's when we need to upgrade. Let's move on to the superlative, the form that helps us find the absolute best, or the biggest, or the slowest of them all. The superlative, or superlative, is basically your tool for crowning a champion. It's not about which one is faster, it's about which one is the fastest. And for this job, we've got a new key ending, in.
And you guessed it, just like before, there's a simple formula. We take that very same weak stem we used for the comparative, but this time we add ist to the end. This is how you single out the one that's at the very top, or bottom.
Let's check out a few examples. So, halpa, cheap, becomes halvin, the cheapest. Kaunis, beautiful, becomes kaunein, the most beautiful. You see? The pattern is super clear once you know what to look for.
Here's a big one to really lock this in your memory. Sininen valas on suurin eläin. The blue whale is the biggest animal. It's not just bigger than a shark, it's the biggest of all of them. That's the real power of the superlative.
Okay, so, just when you think you've got it all figured out, every language has its rebels, right? The words that just don't play by the rules. Finnish is no exception. So let's meet the rule breakers you absolutely have to know.
And the king of all the rule breakers, the one you absolutely have to know, is good. It doesn't use the formulas at all. Nope, it just does its own thing. It goes from huva, which is good, to parempi, better, all the way to paras, which is the best. This is one to just burn into your memory. You'll use it constantly.
And here are a few other big ones you'll run into all the time. Check out how they each have their own little quirks. Pitka becomes pidempi, and then pisin. And huono, the opposite of good, becomes huonompi, and then huonoin.
These are definitely the heavy hitters you'll see everywhere.
Okay, so we've got our tools, we've got the comparative for two, the superlative for a group. Now let's put it all together and see how this works out in the wild, when you actually have to make a choice.
All right, forget the clothing store for a second. Now you're in a Finnish supermarket, standing in the dairy aisle. You're just looking at all the cartons of milk, and you need to use your new language skills to pick the right one.
So first, you're looking at two cartons right next to each other. You pick one up, check the price, and you think, "Tämä maito on halvempi kuin tuo." This milk is cheaper than that one. See? You're using the comparative to make that direct one-to-one choice.
But then you lean in, take a closer look at the other one, and you realize, mutta tuo on tuorein valikoimasta. But that one is the freshest of the entire selection. Uh-oh, now you've got a classic dilemma.
So what's the call? Cheaper or fresher? This is exactly the kind of decision-making where this grammar comes to life. It's the comparative versus the superlative, playing out right there in the grocery aisle.
And in this case, you decide freshness wins out. You grab the freshest milk. So you see what happened? You use the comparative to weigh your options and then use the superlative to identify the absolute best choice from the whole group. That is Finnish in action.
So let's do a super quick wrap-up of your brand new Finnish comparison toolkit. For comparing two things, remember your secret weapon, the mempi ending. To pick the one and only from a group, you use the superlative with the in ending. And of course, you always keep an eye out for those rule breakers, especially hyvä, parempi, paras.
So there you have it. You've got the tools now. You have the fundamental building blocks for making all sorts of comparisons in Finnish. So now the final question is all yours. What's the kaunein, most beautiful, city, the nopein, fastest animal, or maybe the paras kapi, the absolute best cup of coffee you've ever had? Now you can go out and describe the world around you.